The influencer demanded, "Move out of my shot, you're ruining my content." I replied, "No." Then I started my own live stream titled "Watching an Entitled Influencer Harass People." Her follower count dropped in real time as my viewer count exploded. I, 32, have always believed that the quietest people in the room are the ones worth watching. It's in their stillness you see the gears turning, the calculations being made. I've never been one for histrionics. My heart can be pounding, my world can be tilting on its axis, but I will simply stand there, breathe, and think. It's a trait my boyfriend Leo used to say he admired. He called it my core of steel. It turns out he just found it convenient, until it wasn't. The day my life split into a before and after was a ridiculously beautiful Tuesday. The park near our apartment was flooded with that perfect golden hour light that makes everything look like a memory. I was on my favorite bench, the one under the old oak tree, just reading. I wasn't bothering anyone. Then came Serafina. You probably don't know her, but she was what you'd call a micro-influencer on the rise. Her whole brand was authentic urban living, which mostly involved her posing in expensive, neutral-toned athleisure wear against gritty city backdrops. She had a posse of 2 or 3 friends who acted as her de facto camera crew, and today, they decided my bench was the perfect spot for her to feign deep, contemplative thoughts for her 50,000 followers. I saw them coming, a small herd of entitlement. Serafina, with her impossibly white sneakers and a severe ponytail that looked like it hurt, gestured vaguely in my direction. "Can you move?" she asked, not looking at me, but at her friend holding the phone. I looked up from my book. "I'm sorry?" "My shot," she said, with the pained sigh of an artist being thwarted. She pointed a manicured finger. "You're in it. You're ruining my content." I glanced around. There were at least a dozen other empty benches. I looked back at her, a small, polite smile on my face. "No," I said. Her face, so carefully arranged into a mask of serene contentment for her followers, twitched. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no, I'm not moving. I was here first. It's a public park." Her friend, a guy named Ethan with a vapid expression, chimed in. "She's trying to work. Just move." I held my ground. "I'm enjoying the park, just like you're allowed to. My presence here isn't a negotiation." This is when it should have ended. A minor, irritating blip in an otherwise pleasant day. But then I saw him. Leo. He was jogging towards us, his face a mixture of annoyance and embarrassment. He was supposed to be at the gym. He'd kissed me goodbye an hour ago, leaving his muddy Adidas sneakers right on the new rug I'd bought last week. "Sarah, what's going on?" he asked, jogging in place, avoiding my eyes. Serafina's entire demeanor changed, her face crumpled into a mask of distress. "Leo, thank God. This woman is harassing me. I just asked her if she could move for a quick picture, and she's being so aggressive." I felt the air leave my lungs. Harassing? Aggressive? I just sat there, my book in my lap. Leo finally looked at me, a pleading look in his eyes. "Hey, come on, just for a minute. What's the big deal?" The big deal. He was taking her side. He was standing there in front of her friends and publicly siding with a stranger who was lying about me. The betrayal was so sharp, so sudden, it was like a physical blow. I could feel the heat rise in my cheeks, but my voice, when I spoke, was unnervingly calm. "The big deal, Leo, is that I was told to move out of my spot because my presence was ruining her content. The big deal is that she's now lying, and you're validating it." "Babe, it's not a big deal," he insisted, his voice dropping into that placating tone he uses when he wants me to just give in. And that's when something inside me snapped. Not in a loud, explosive way. It was a quiet, clean break. The part of me that made excuses for him, the part that absorbed his casual thoughtlessness, it just went silent. I took out my phone. My hands were perfectly steady. I went to Instagram, hit the go live button, and typed in a title. "Watching an entitled influencer harass people." I propped my phone against my water bottle on the bench, making sure Serafina and her crew, and now my boyfriend, were perfectly framed. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, my expression neutral, and let the camera roll. At first, there were only a handful of viewers. Then a dozen. The number started climbing steadily. 50, 100. It was slow, but it was growing. Serafina, who had been whispering dramatically to Leo, noticed the little red live icon on my screen. Her eyes widened. "What are you doing?" "What you were doing," I replied, my voice even. creating content. The change was instantaneous. Her friend Ethan frantically showed her his phone, likely at the stream of comments starting to pop up. My viewer count was now climbing past 200, and the comments were pointed. Wait, who is this girl? The woman on the bench hasn't moved an inch. How is she aggressive? Is that her boyfriend siding with the influencer? Yikes. Leo looked at my phone, then at me, his face pale. Turn it off. Now. No, I said again. That lovely, simple, powerful word. Serafina, realizing her performance of victimhood was now being broadcast to a growing, unsympathetic audience, grabbed her things in a huff. This is insane. You're insane, she hissed at me, her voice trembling with rage. She and her friends practically ran from the park. Leo stood there, frozen, caught between two worlds. His girlfriend, who he had just publicly betrayed, was now calmly live-streaming the fallout. And the influencer he was so desperate to impress had just fled the scene of her own self-immolation. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He knew. He knew he had made a catastrophic mistake. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that this was just the beginning. I calmly ended the live stream, which had peaked at around 400 viewers, and made sure to save the 47-minute video to my phone. The gears were turning. A plan was already starting to form, a quiet, methodical series of steps. He had left his muddy sneakers on my new rug. He had sided with a stranger over me. These were not small things. They were symptoms of a much larger disease, and I was about to become the cure. Update. The silence in our apartment is a living thing. It breathes in the spaces between us. Leo came home an hour after me last night. He tried to talk, of course. The usual script. You're overreacting. I was put in a weird position. Why did you have to make such a scene? I just looked at him. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I simply let his words hang in the air and die. Around 8 p.m., a friend texted me a link to a Reddit thread. Someone had screen recorded my stream and posted it. That's when it truly exploded. By 9 p.m., I saw that Serafina had made her account private, but not before her follower count had visibly dropped by thousands. The internet had the receipts. My phone had been buzzing. Texts from him, texts from her. His were pleading. Hers were something else. Serafina, you psycho bitch. You have no idea what you've done. My brand deals are pulling out. I'm gonna sue you for slander. Me, I have the 47-minute unedited video of our entire interaction. I said nothing. I simply recorded your behavior. Please have your lawyer contact me at their earliest convenience. She hasn't replied. Leo tried to touch my arm. I moved away. We need to talk about this, he said, his voice strained. Okay, I said. My mind, needing an anchor in the emotional storm, started grabbing onto solid, tangible things. I went to my desk, took out a notepad and pen, not out of professional habit, but because I needed to see the problem laid out in black and white to stop my hands from shaking. I wrote at the top of the page, financial entanglements. I started listing them. The $2,850 security deposit. This came from my savings account, I said, my voice quiet. His face went blank. What's that? It's the security deposit on this apartment, the one you're not on the account for. I then wrote, hydro, internet, renter's insurance. These are all in my name and paid from my account. I continued writing, my pen scratching in the silent room. The new rug, the sofa we split, but I paid for up front. The premium Spotify account you use. I tore the sheet off the pad and pushed it across the table to him. This is what we need to talk about. The logistics. He stared at the paper as if it were written in a foreign language. Are you breaking up with me? It was the vulnerability that got to me, not his, but mine. For a split second, I saw the man I thought I loved. A flicker of pain, sharp and hot, went through my chest. I almost folded, but then I pictured his face in the park. The casual dismissal, the choice he made so easily. I took a slow breath. I'm not sure what us there is to break up, Leo. You made it clear today who you prioritize, so I'm prioritizing myself. We need a plan for your departure. He slept on the sofa. Before I went to bed, I did a few simple things. I logged him out of my streaming accounts and changed the Wi-Fi password. Late last night, I drafted and sent a calmly worded email to our building's management company inquiring about the protocol for changing the occupants on a lease. I got an automated reply saying my query was received and would be addressed within 3 to 5 business days. The waiting began. Update. It took 2 full days for Mr. Henderson, our landlord, to reply. 2 days of sharing an apartment with a man who now looked at me with a mixture of fear and resentment. The silence was suffocating. I spent the time meticulously going through bank statements, highlighting every shared expense I had fronted. It felt less like planning revenge and more like performing an autopsy on our life together. When Mr. Henderson's email finally arrived, it was as dry and bureaucratic as I'd hoped. It was CC'd to both of us and neutrally outlined the lease breaking or lease alteration policies, all of which required mutual consent or a 60-day notice period before the end of the term. It wasn't the immediate victory I wanted, but it was official. It was a paper trail. Leo saw it as a win for him. See? We're stuck. You can't just kick me out. We can work this out. I didn't reply. I just forwarded him a second email I'd sent to Mr. Henderson, the one I sent an hour after the first. In it, I had noted my concern about a non-tenant, Serafina, having been given access to the building, and attached screenshots from her friends' public social media accounts, showing them in our apartment while I was at work. The follow-up from Mr. Henderson was much quicker and directed only at Leo. It was a formal warning about violating the guest policy and the clauses regarding nuisance behavior. That was the first crack in Leo's smug facade. The real sadness hits at night. The other evening, my phone showed me a memory, a photo of us in a little seaside town 2 years ago, both of us laughing, squinting in the sun. The grief was a physical thing, a hollow ache in my chest. I felt the pull to just give in, to say never mind, to go back to the comfortable lie. But then I closed my eyes and heard his voice in the park. "What's the big deal?" And I knew I couldn't. That man in the photo was gone, or maybe he was never really there at all. That grief hardened my resolve. This wasn't just about my feelings, it was about my future. The biggest shared asset was the car. It's in his name, but I've been making half the payments for 2 years, a casual verbal agreement. "I'm moving some things out this weekend," he told me last night, a touch of his old arrogance returning. "I'm taking the car, obviously, so you'll need to figure out your own transportation." I nodded slowly. "Okay." The next morning, I filed a claim in small claims court for the total amount of my contributions, $6,480. The filing fee was $75. It was a simple online form. I attached PDFs of every single bank transfer, each clearly labeled car payment. He'll be served sometime next week. I'm sure he thinks this will be a simple case of my word against his. He's in for a surprise. Update. The papers were served on a Thursday. I wasn't home. I came back to find the official notice lying on the kitchen counter, looking innocuous. Leo was sitting on the sofa, my sofa, staring at it. The look on his face wasn't anger, not yet. It was pure, unadulterated shock. "You're suing me?" he said, his voice a hoarse whisper. "You are actually suing me." "I'm reclaiming my portion of a shared asset, Leo," I said, putting my bag down. "My name isn't on the title. This is the legal remedy available to me." That's when the anger came. Remedy? It was a gift. We were a couple. I paid for dinners, you helped with the car. That's how it works. You can't just retroactively decide it was a loan. This was the hurdle I had anticipated. The flimsy, predictable defense. For a moment, a sliver of fear entered my heart. What if a judge saw it that way? But I pushed it down. Logic had to prevail. "It wasn't a gift, Leo, and we both know it," I said calmly. I took out my phone and opened a folder in my email I had prepared. "On September 14th of last year, you texted me, 'Hey, can you send the $270 for the car this week? Payment is due Friday.' On November 15th, you texted, 'Forgot about the car payment. It's a little tight this month. Can you cover it?' I have dozens of these. Emails, texts, all acknowledging that my contribution was a recurring payment for half the cost of the car, not a gift." I held out the phone. He wouldn't look at it. He knew what he had written. He had just never imagined it would be used against him. He saw his own words, his own casual requests, being transformed from routine couple logistics into evidence. His face went pale. The bluster just vanished, leaving behind a desperate, cornered look. "You saved all of that? Who does that?" "I didn't save it to use against you, Leo. It was just our life. It's all just there," I said, and my voice cracked slightly on the last words. That part was true. I never thought I'd be in this position. You're the one forcing me to define it as a legal transaction. He sank back onto the sofa, defeated. He finally understood. I wasn't fighting him. I was just presenting the facts, and the facts were all on my side. He had no defense against the simple, documented truth. Final update, 6 months later. It's funny what 6 months can do. The silence in my apartment is no longer a living, breathing thing. It's just quiet. It's the peaceful, restorative quiet of a space that is entirely my own. The new rug looks pristine. The ending wasn't a single dramatic explosion. It was a series of small, final collapses for Leo and Serafina. After our confrontation, Leo dropped his gift defense. He had to take out a personal loan to pay me the $6,480 before the court date. The day the money hit my account was the same day I had the locks changed. As a courtesy, I left his name on the lease until the renewal came up, and then I signed the new one alone. Mr. Henderson gave me a small, left approving nod. As for Serafina, her downfall was death by 1,000 cuts. Her tearful online bullying narrative never recovered. Other creators, sensing blood in the water, made reaction videos. They did deep dives. Her brand, built on a foundation of carefully curated fiction, couldn't survive the collision with unfiltered reality. The final nail in her coffin was a segment on a local morning show about the perils of being an influencer. She thought she could control the narrative, but the show's research team found the Reddit threads. The host, a woman with a deceptively sweet smile, ambushed her on live television. "Serafina, we have to ask you about an incident in a park a few months ago. We have a clip here." They played the part where she lies directly to Leo's face about me being aggressive. The public humiliation was absolute. Her face, broadcast in high definition, crumbling under the pressure of a simple, verifiable fact. Her account was deleted within a week. Leo and Serafina are still together. A friend saw them at a cheap chain restaurant a few weeks ago, arguing in low, bitter tones. They deserve each other. They remain convinced that I am the villain, a vindictive psycho who orchestrated their ruin. They don't understand that I didn't have to orchestrate anything. I just opened the door and let the consequences of their own actions walk in. I held up a mirror and they shattered it because they couldn't stand the reflection. There is no triumphant feeling of victory. There's just peace. The justice I served wasn't about punishment. It was about restoration. Restoring my home, my finances, and my sense of self. Last night, I was on my bench, the one under the old oak tree. The light was perfect. A young couple asked if I could take their picture. I smiled and said, "Of course." I took the photo, they thanked me, and they went on their way. It was just a small, normal human interaction, and it was everything